Before I was even able to get a full 8 hours of rest after my 24-hour shift, we got some amazing news in a brand new Unearthed Arcana revealed to us called Psionic Options Revisited. This is going to provide us updated, revised versions of the previous Aberrant Mind sorcerer, the Soul Knife rogue, and I think it was whatever the Psionic fighter was, as well as 3 refined versions of the spells we got in the wizard Unearthed Arcana, and 5 new feats as well. Very cool stuff. So if you want to see what that is, and I'm very excited, stay tuned. What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and before we dive in, I wanted to talk a little bit about channel analytics. I've done this a couple times in the past, but I wanted to show you, for the month of April, out of everyone that's come out to enjoy, the over 100,000 of you or so who've come out to enjoy my videos in the month of April, 61.6% of you are not subscribed to the channel. Just to put that in perspective, if less than half of the people that watched who are not subscribed did subscribe, I'd blow past 50,000 subscribers in no time. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If you haven't taken a chance to subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. It greatly helps me. You guys already helped me blow past my goal of 25,000 by my birthday in July. It's now, what is it? It's mid-April, and we're already almost approaching 30,000. So anyway, thank you all for that. So let's go ahead and jump over to the website. You can see it here, Psionic Options Revisited. And then here you can see right out the gate, Psi-Knight was the Psychic Warrior fighter. They replaced the name. Soul Knife, they kept the same. Aberrant Mind Sorcerer is now Psionic Soul Sorcerer. 3 new spells, 5 new feats. We've abandoned Psionic's Wizard, which they just tell you outright, and the following spells: Ego Whip, Id Insinuation, Mental Barrier, Psionic Blast, Psychic Crush, and Thought Shield, yet many of their effects can be found within this document. Give you a little bit about what Psionic is, and then how it was in earlier editions. They arise from the user, rather from an external source. Psionic Aptitude can be used to cast spells, as well as a limited number of effects beyond spells. And powers associated with Psi and D&D are likely those that appear in other media, telepathy, telekinesis, and so on. Psionics in 5th edition, they were introduced in 2014 in some of the monsters, and they list some of the different books that have had them. In 2017, we experimented with the Mystic, focused on psionic powers. Through its features and subclasses, the Mystic allowed you to create a character that echoed abilities of other classes, but with a psionic twist. As many playtesters enjoyed the psionic themes in the Mystic, feedback was also clear that the class encroached on other classes' territory and was in a way too often complex, too powerful, or both. Following that feedback, we've decided to say big news, farewell to the Mystic, and explore other ways to give players psi powers, as we did with the Great Old One Warlock in the Player's Handbook. In 2019 and now in 2020, we're exploring new options for psionic subclasses, spells, and feats, and allow different types of characters to manifest psionic power. The philosophy of this approach is most akin to the one taken back in 1st edition, where psionic powers weren't the domain of any particular class, but available for characters in different ways. So they have a little section here about psi as a form of magic, and they talk about how later on in the article, some of the abilities that are created from this will be magic, some will not. First up, we have the Psi-Knight fighter, which was previously the Psychic Warrior fighter. And what I'm going to do is split the screen here, and we'll have the Psychic Warrior on the right and the Psi-Knight on the left. So right now at level 3, you get Psionic Talent, or you used to get Psionic Armament, which you got at 3rd and 10th level. And it was when you finish a long rest, you can choose to augment one of your defenses or your strikes. It lasts until a long rest. It was when you are a creature you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use a reaction to roll a d10 and reduce the amount taken by that number rolled. When you reach 10, it goes up to a d12. Or Augmented Strike, once during each of your turns when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can also deal 1d4 psychic damage to the target. When you reach 10th level, this goes up to a d6 psychic damage. It is now Psionic Talent. You harbor a wellspring of psionic power. It's represented by your Psionic Talent die. That seems to be the general change here. Psionic Talent options. You can use your Psionic Talent die in the following ways. Protective Field. When you are a creature you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to roll your Psionic Talent die and reduce the damage taken by a number of points rolled plus your intelligence modifier as you create a momentary shield of telekinetic force. So that kind of is the augmented defenses one. Psi-powered leap. When you make a high or long jump, you can roll your psionic talent die and extend the jump distance up to a number of feet equal to twice the number rolled plus your intelligence modifier. This extra distance costs you only 1 foot of movement, which is interesting. So all of that extra movement only costs you 1 foot? Okay. And telekinetic strike. Once on each of your turns, immediately after you deal damage to a target within 30 feet of you, with a weapon attack, you can roll your psionic talent die and also deal force damage to the target equal to the number rolled. So previously it was psychic damage and it started as a D4. Now everything's starting at a D6. So let's just read Psi-powered leap again. Extend the jump up to a number of feet equal to twice the number rolled plus your intelligence modifier. Oh, this only costs you 1 foot of movement to make that extra jump. All right, changing the dice size. If you roll the highest number of your psionic talent die, it decreases by 1 die size after the roll. This represents you burning through your psionic energy. For example, if the die is a D6 and you roll a 6, it becomes a D4. If it's a D4 and you roll a 4, it becomes unusable until you finish a long rest. Conversely, if you roll a 1 on your psionic talent die, it increases by 1 die size after the roll, up to its starting size. This represents conserving psionic energy for later use. For example, if you roll a 1 on a D4, the die becomes a D6. Whenever you finish a long rest, your psionic talent die resets to its starting size. When you reach certain levels in the class, your starting size of your psionic die increases. At 5th, it goes to a D8. At 11th, it goes to a D10. At 17th, it goes to a D12. As a bonus action, you can calm your mind for a moment and restore your psionic talent die to its starting size. You then can't use psi replenishment again until you finish a long rest. So it basically took the augmented strikes and augmented defenses ability, combined them together, set the die at D6, added in a jump ability, and then this funky mechanic of if you roll a maximum, then it reduces. If you roll minimum, then it increases. If you roll down to a D4 and roll a 4, then it's unusable until you take a long rest. And then it increases as kind of cantrips go up at 5, 11, and 17. And then you can use a bonus action to reset it to its starting size. I think that only functions if you haven't gone down and made it unusable via the D4 mechanic. I think that's how that works. All right. So next, you also got Psionic Telepathic Hand, which you learned Mage Hand cantrip at 3rd level that you could cast without components and make the hand invisible. Intelligence was your spellcasting ability modifier for that. They seem to have removed that entirely. So let's jump up to the 7th level ability. So level 7 for Strength of Mind, originally you got bonus action Telekinetic Lash, went out to 20 feet. They make a strength saving throw based off of your intelligence mod. If they failed, they take 2d6 force damage plus your intelligence mod, and they're moved 15 feet either directly towards you or away from you. On a success, they take half as much damage and aren't moved, and you could do this intelligence modifier times per long rest. It's sort of been tweaked in the new version called Telekinetic Adept, where when you deal damage with your Telekinetic Strike, the ability you got at level 3, you can force them to make a strength saving throw using your intelligence modifier for the basis, and unless they succeed, they are knocked prone, and you can knock them prone or move them 10 feet in any direction. Unfortunately, if they succeed, nothing happens. Also, there's telekinetic movement. If your psionic talent die is available, as an action, you can target one loose object that is larger, smaller, or one willing creature other than yourself. If you can see that target and is within 30 feet of you, you can move it up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Alternatively, if it is a tiny object and you can move it to or from your hand. Either way, you can move the target horizontally, vertically, or both. When you take this action, your psionic talent die decreases by 1 size. So you could, in theory, move someone up 30 feet to get to a ledge, or move them across a gap, or to position them for an attack or something like that. At 10, in the old version, it was telekinetic bulwark. When you take the attack action, you could forgo one of your attacks to project a bastion of psionic energy a 10-foot radius around you. It lasts for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated. For that duration, you and your allies in that 10-foot radius have the benefits of half cover, so a +2 to AC, and advantage on strength saving throws. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest or until after you use your second wind feature. Now, level 10 is you have resistance to poison and psychic damage and immune to the poison condition. Nice, simple, easy. I like that version. It's less wonky than Telekinetic Bulwark. You had at 15 originally Agonizing Strikes. Your attacks can channel psionic energy. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can deal 2d10 extra psychic damage to that target, force them to make a con save based off your intelligence modifier. Unless the save succeeds, they fall prone and suffer disadvantage on ability checks until the end of their next turn. Again, if they succeed, nothing happens as beyond the initial damage. And this was intelligence modifier times per long rest. Now you get Bulwark of Force at 15th level. As a bonus action, you can choose creatures which include you that you can see within 30 feet of you up to a number equal to your intelligence modifier. Each one of those chosen creatures is protected by half cover for 1 minute. So this is sort of a tweaking of, what was it called? Telekinetic Bulwark. So you choose up to your intelligence modifier creatures as a bonus action, creatures that are within 30 feet of you. And they have half cover for 1 minute, so that's a +2 to dexterity saving throws and a +2 to AC. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you decrease your psionic talent die by 1 size to use this feature again. So that's sort of the new mechanic, is the psionic talent die. Then originally at 18th level, you became a psychic dreadnought. Using your reaction, when you take damage for 1 minute, at the start of each of your turns, you regain 10 hit points. Your walking speed increases by 10 feet, and if you're prone, you can stand up by spending only 5 feet of movement once per long rest. Now, at 18, you get Telekinetic Master. If your psionic talent is available, you can cast the Telekinesis spell requiring no components. Your spellcasting ability modifier for this spell is Intelligence. When you cast this spell, your psionic die decreases by 1 size. Reminder that at level 18, your psionic die is a d12, so you can go d12, d10, d8, d6, d4 before you have to worry about losing it. And you could use your psi replenishment thing you get at level 3 to set it back to its normal d12. So this works out pretty well. In all, I think this is better in a lot of sense. I think the psionic talent die is a unique concept, and that seems to be, I think, what we're going to see more than likely in the final published product. I also like the psi-powered leap is a kind of a nice little feature. The idea of the die size changing, I like. I'm not a huge fan of if you roll maximum damage or the maximum number on the die, then it decreases. I think that mechanic, and then if you roll a 1, it goes up. I feel like it's rewarding you for doing well. It's giving you a benefit if you do poorly, which is something. But I don't know. It's a funky mechanic, and it just seems like it's one more thing to have to remember and manage. And I don't particularly enjoy that. I do like the concept of decreasing the die as a function of activating other abilities. I like that feature. Like I cast Telekinesis at level 18, and my D12 goes to a D10. I like that. That I think is a cool concept, but the rolling max versus rolling ones, that one seems a little funky to me. I love the level 10 ability, the resistance to damage and immunity to the poison condition. Nice and simple, a good function, and I think they cleared up Telekinetic Bulwark a lot. It didn't make sense in my mind that it gave you advantage on strength saves while also giving you protection. This, I think, makes more sense, so I like it overall. Next up, we have the Soul Knife, the only one of the archetypes to keep their the same name in both versions. So originally, you got Psychic Blade at 3rd level. As a bonus action, you create a magical blade of psychic power. While one of your hands is manifesting the blade, you can't hold anything in that hand. You can dismiss one or both blades at any time, no action required. The blade is a simple melee weapon with the finesse, light, and thrown properties. It has a normal range of 30 feet and a long range of 60 feet. It deals a d6 psychic damage on a hit. If you throw the blade as part of the attack, it vanishes immediately after it hits or misses. The blade otherwise disappears the instant it leaves your hand. You also got Psionic Enhancement at 3rd level, which you could telepathically communicate with any creature within 30 feet as long as it can speak one language. Your walking speed increased by 5 feet, and your hit point maximum and your current hit points increased by an amount equal to your intelligence modifier plus your rogue level. I should also say that when you finish a long rest, you can choose to gain one of those. That was my mistake, until your next long rest. Now, at 3rd level, you get Psionic Talent. Again, we see that concept come back. It starts off at a d6. You can use it in the following ways. When your non-psionic training fails you, you can tap into your psionic power to help. If you fail an ability check using a skill or tool with which you have proficiency, you can roll your psionic talent die and add the number rolled to the check. Makes sense. You're investigating, lockpicking. That works for you. Psychic whispers. You can use your psychic abilities to establish telepathic communication between yourself and others. As an action, you give yourself and at least one other creature the ability to speak telepathically with each other. When you do so, roll your psionic talent die and choose creatures you can see, up to a number of creatures equal to the number rolled. For 1 hour, the chosen creatures can speak telepathically with you, and you can speak telepathically with them. To send or receive a message, no action required. You and other creatures must be within 1 mile of each other. A creature can't use telepathy if it can't speak any languages, and a creature can end the telepathic connection at any time. You and the creature don't need to speak a common language to understand each other. So that's pretty cool, and that one doesn't seem to use up your die, or does it? No, it does. And then here, changing the die size, let's see if it's the same. D6, you roll a 6, it becomes a D4. All right, so that mechanic is still there. And if you roll a 1, it increases. And similarly, the die type, just like the Psychic Warrior, increases to a D8 at 5, a D10 at 11, and a D12 at 17. You also get psi replenishment as well. I'm going to think that's going to be a theme we're going to see throughout. Then your kind of main ability here, Psychic Blades. When you're about to make a melee or ranged attack against a creature, you can manifest a psychic blade from your free hand and make the attack with that blade. The magic blade is a simple melee weapon with the finesse and thrown properties. This one now has a normal range of 60 feet and no long range, so just 60 feet regardless. On a hit, it deals psychic damage equal to a d6 plus the ability modifier you use for the attack roll, right? So it could be dex or strength. The blade vanishes immediately after it hits or misses its target and leaves no mark on its target if it deals damage. That's a cool roleplay feature. After you attack with the blade, you can make a melee or ranged weapon attack with a second psychic blade as a bonus action on the same turn, provided your other hand is free to create it. The damage die of this bonus action is a D4 instead of a D6. And that one, it doesn't state that it gets the benefit of the ability modifier as the damage, so I assume it works like regular 2-weapon fighting. Okay. Originally, you got Terrifying, and I guess I should say that pretty much covers everything from the original Psychic Blade increasing the range, and then the Psionic Talent pretty much covers Psionic Enhancement. The telepathy is there. You don't get the movement speed by 5 feet, but I didn't think that was great, and rather than getting hit points, which is nice, you can get a bonus to roguey things. All right, so at level 9, you had Terrifying Blade. When you damage a creature with your Psychic Blade, you can force it to make a Wisdom save keyed off your intelligence. On a fail, it's frightened until the start of your next turn. On a successful save, it is immune for 24 hours. But that was just part of the attack. When you damage a creature, it didn't require anything extra. Now at 9, you get Soul Blades. Let's see, if you make an attack roll with your Psychic Blades and miss the target, you can roll your Psionic Talent die and add the number rolled to the attack roll. If this causes the attack to hit, your Psionic Talent die decreases by 1, regardless of the number rolled. And then Psionic Teleportation. If your Psionic Talent die is available, you can hurl your Psychic Blades to magically transport yourself to another location. As a bonus action, you manifest one of your Psychic Blades and throw it in an unoccupied space you can see, up to a number of feet away equal to 5 times the highest number rolled on your Psionic Talent die. You then teleport to that space, the blade vanishes, and your Psionic Talent die decreases by 1. Okay, the ability at level 13 is called Psychic Veil in the original and Psionic Veil in the new one. As an action, you magically become invisible along with anything you're wearing or carrying for 10 minutes. It ends if you attack or if you force a creature to make a saving throw. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier per long rest. Now, as an action, you magically become invisible. It ends if you deal damage to a creature if you force them to make a saving throw. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest unless you decrease your Psionic Talent die by 1 size. So previously, it was intelligence modifier. Now it's based on decreasing your Psionic Talent die, but other than the name, the ability is pretty much the same. And at 17, they were both called Rend Mine. So it was originally as an action, while you have at least one Psychic Blade manifest, you can force a creature you can see within 30 feet to make an intelligence save, eat off your intelligence, although it was DC 10 plus your proficiency bonus as opposed to DC 8. If you are hidden from the target, it has disadvantage on the save. On a failed save, the target takes 12d6 psychic damage and is stunned until the start of your next turn. On a success, it takes half damage and isn't stunned. One of your psychic blades vanishes after you use this feature, and intelligence modifier times per long rest. It now is, when you use your psychic blades to deal sneak attack damage to a creature, you can force them to make a wisdom saving throw based off of your dexterity modifier, which seems kind of funky and not your intelligence mod like everything else. But and this is DC 8, not DC 10. Unless the save succeeds, the target is stunned until the end of your next turn. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you decrease your psionic talent die by 1 size. So what this is essentially doing is you basically get stunning strike when you deal sneak attack damage with your psychic blades. It's nice because it doesn't cost you anything extra as far as action economy goes. It is weird that it's based on your dex save, but stunning them until the start of your next turn, or sorry, the end of your next turn is useful because you could then make a bonus action attack against them, and then everybody gets to go and you get your full turn before they're unstunned. And then again, psionic talent. I think this one, I think the soul knife was pretty close where it originally was, and I think this is a pretty good fix. I think this could probably get published as it is, and it would be okay. I like the throwing the dagger and teleporting. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, my only clarification would be, is Rend Mind supposed to be based off your dex mod and not your intelligence modifier? And then I've already expressed my issues that I don't like the way the die changing mechanic works. But other than that, I think it's pretty good. So that is it for this. Now we got to jump over to the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer, which has now been changed to the Psionic Soul Sorcerer. It gives you some options here. Let's just confirm here in the document up at the top that it was the Aberrant Mind. Just wanted to confirm before I misspoke again. Okay, so they give us a little bit about how your origin happened, and let's jump into this. So, psionic talent. All right, so at first you originally got invasive thoughts. At first level, you gain the ability to, as a bonus action, to create a telepathic link between you and a creature. Until that link ends, you can telepathically speak to the target through the link. If it understands at least one language, it can talk to you. This link lasts for 10 minutes. It ends early if you're incapacitated or die, or use a bonus action to break it. That was for free. Then you also got psionic spells at level 1, automatically known, kind of the origin spells we've been calling them, that are listed there. And then you had warped being at level 1. You basically got AC equals 13 plus your dex mod while you aren't wearing armor. Now, that's obviously been significantly changed to the point where we now have the psionic talent feature like we know of before. Starts as a d6, what do we get? Psionic Discovery, you can unlock the ability to cast a mind-oriented sorcerer spell that you don't already know. After meditating for 10 minutes, which can be done during a rest, roll your psionic talent die and choose a sorcerer spell of a level for which you have spell slots and is of the school of divination or enchantment. You know the chosen spell for a number of hours equal to the number rolled. I hate this. I hate that it's just overly complex and unnecessary. Just give them the spells like you used to do. That makes more sense to me. But anyway, so the way this works is you meditate for 10 minutes, which can be done as part of a short or long rest. You roll your psionic talent die, which is a d6 to start. Choose a sorcerer spell of a level for which you have spell slots. So that we're just tracking that. And then it has to be from the divination or enchantment schools of magic. And then you know that spell for the number of hours equal to the die roll. So if you roll a 1 on your psionic talent die, you know that spell for 1 hour in game, and then you don't know it anymore. So that just seems dumb to me. Obviously, if you roll a 6, that's great. You get to know it for 6 hours, but it decreases your psionic die. So I don't like that at all. Psychic Sorcery. When you cast a spell, you can use your mind to form it rather than relaying words, gestures, or materials. To do so, roll your psionic talent die. The spell requires no verbal component, and if you roll the level of spell or higher, the spell doesn't require material or somatic components. This I like. It's kind of giving you like a subtle spell. It kind of steps on subtle spell, but that means you can take a different meta magic, which is good. And this kind of harkens back to the old form of way psychic psionics worked, in that they weren't magical abilities. They just happened from the mind. So I like that. And then telekinetic speech. You form a telepathic bond between your mind and the mind of another. As bonus action, choose another creature you can see. Roll your psionic talent die for a number of hours equal to the number you rolled. You and the chosen creature can speak telepathically as long as, and each of you are within a number of miles equal to the number you rolled. You understand each other as long as you must speak mentally in a language the other knows. Telepathic connection ends early if the ability to form the connection with a different creature. So that improves the level 1 ability significantly. It goes from a 10-minute thing you could do every 10 minutes to a minimum starting time of 1 to 6 hours, and that's nice. So it's the ability to kind of do subtly based magic, and that one, for whatever reason, I like the mechanic of if you roll the die and it's the spell's level or higher, then it doesn't require somatic or material components. I don't know why I like that. It also is material components, period. So if you have a spell that has a significantly expensive material component, you can get away and not have to deal with that at all. So that's something to consider as well. Psi replenishment, or changing the die size, it's the same thing. Goes up at 5, 11, and 17, and you get Psi replenishment as a bonus action. Okay. Psychic source or psionic sorcery was a thing you got at 6th level before. Whenever you cast any spell gained from your psionic spell feature, you can cast it by expending a spell slot as normal or by spending a number of sorcery points equal to the spell's level. If you cast it using sorcery points, it requires no components. I really like that because it worked out as a way to get around having to do the conversion from spell slots, and it automatically gave you the no component feature. You also got psychic defenses, resistance to psychic damage, and advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened. Now, at 6th level, you get Psychic Strike. Immediately after you deal damage to a creature with a sorcerer spell for which you expend a spell slot, you can roll your psionic talent die and also deal psychic damage to the creature equal to the number rolled. You can deal this extra damage only once per turn. So, you have to roll your psionic talent die, which potentially means you could lose it. I mean, it could be adding a potentially up to 12 once you're at higher levels extra damage, but I would rather have the psionic sorcery ability or the psychic defenses ability in my mind. At 14th, you had Revelation in Flesh. As a bonus action, you can spend 1 or more sorcery point to magically transform your body for 1 minute. For each sorcery point you spend, you gain one of the following benefits of your choice, the effects which last until the transformation ends. Swim speed equal to your walk speed, the ability to breathe underwater. Let's see. So, and then some RP about growing gills and webbed fingers. You get a fly speed equal to your walk speed and can hover. As you fly, your skin glistens with mucus. Your body, along with any equipment you're carrying or wearing, becomes slimy and pliable. You can move through a space as narrow as 1 inch without squeezing, and you can spend 5 feet of movement to escape from non-magical restraints or being grappled. Or your eyes turn black and become writhing sensory tendrils. You are aware of the location of any hidden or invisible creatures within 60 feet. Now you get Mind over Body. It seems like a similar ability. As a bonus action, you can roll your psionic talent die and spend 1 or more sorcery points to magically transform yourself for a number of hours equal to the number rolled. Until the transformation ends, you gain one of the following benefits of your choice for each sorcery point you spend. So now you can gain multiple benefits, which is nice. You can see invisible creatures within 60 feet of you, provided they're not behind total cover. Fly speed equal to your walking speed and can hover. Swim speed equal to twice your walking speed, and you can breathe underwater. And your body, along with your equipment, becomes pliable, and you can go through the 1 inch space without squeezing, and can spend 5 feet of movement to escape from non-magical restraints or grappled. So it's basically the same ability, but it can be, rather than for 1 minute, it can be a number of hours equal to your psionic talent die, and you can gain multiple ones. And at 18, you used to get Warp Reality. As an action, you magically radiate a transparent 20-foot radius aura for a minute. This might take from the form of a sphere of rippling energy. Other creatures treat the area or the aura as difficult terrain. When they start their turn in it, they take 2d10 psychic damage. When you activate this feature, you can choose any number of creatures to be unaffected. As a bonus action, you can end the aura early. If you do so, you and any number of creatures you choose within the aura are teleported to a location you can see within 1 mile of you. Each creature must appear within 20 feet of you in an unoccupied space, and an unwilling creature that succeeds on a charisma saving throw against your spell save DC is not teleported. once per long rest. And now you get Psychic Aura instead. As a bonus action, you can magically radiate this transparent 30-foot radius for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated or lose the use of your psionic talent die. Whenever a creature starts its turn in the aura or moves into the aura for the first time on a turn, you can roll your psionic talent die and deal psychic damage to the creature, equaling the number rolled plus your charisma modifier. If the creature takes any of this damage, its speed is halved until the next turn. So I liked the idea of the warping of reality and the teleportation, but this Psychic Aura seems like something that will be more useful and more consistent. So let's go back to the Wizard, because in the Wizard article, we had new spells, and we did get some new spells here. So we had Intellect Fortress previously, which was a 5th level spell. It is now a 4th level spell usable by bards, sorcerers, and wizards. It was 1 action. It was range of self before, concentration 10 minutes. You create a faint shimmering barrier of psychic protective energy. You have advantage on all saving throws. When another creature you can see within 30 feet of you fails a saving throw, you can use your reaction to allow them to reroll the save. Now it is concentration up to an hour. For the duration, you or one willing creature you can see has resistance to psychic damage and advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saves. The original version, I think, was better, but it was higher level. And then at higher levels, you can cast this now out of a 5th level slot or higher to target an additional creature. They must be within 30 feet of you when you target them. Mind Sliver is the cantrip. Let's see, is 60 feet, 1 round. They make an intelligence saving throw or take a d6 psychic damage. And the first time it makes a saving throw before the end of your next turn, it must roll a d4 and subtract the number rolled from the save. The damage increases by a d6 as cantrips do. Now they must make an intelligence saving throw. Unless the saving throw is successful, they take a d6 psychic damage. And the first time it makes a saving throw before the end of your next turn, it must roll a d4 and subtract the number from the save. So it looks like that's pretty much exactly the same. Yeah, I don't see anything majorly different, so you guys tell me if you do in the description or in the comments below. Mind Thrust, originally 2nd level, 60 foot, 1 round. Propel a lance of psionic energy. The target makes a intelligence saving throw. 3d6 psychic damage. It can only use the action to dash or disengage on its turn. On a successful save, it takes half damage and it's not limited. And then at higher levels, you could target 1 additional creature for each slot above 2nd. It was a bonus action too, which was really important. Now it's an action with a range of 90 feet. Intelligence save, 3d6 psychic damage, and it can't take a reaction until the end of its next turn. Moreover, on its turn, it must choose whether it gets a move, an action, or a bonus action. It only gets 1 of the 3. On a success, it takes half as much damage and suffers none of the other effects. When you use a 3rd level higher, you can target 1 additional creature above for each slot above that, and they must be within 30 feet. So rather than damage and limiting their action to dash or disengage, now they can't take reactions and they have to choose whether they get a movement, an action, or a bonus action. I think this is better, but it was a bonus action before to cast it. Now it's an action. And that's it. That's all of the new spells. Okay. We did have some new feats also in that document, but we're going to look at this. So new feats are here for the feats option in the player's handbook. So I will tell you that 3 out of the 4 feats require that you either have the psionic talent feature from one of these classes or the wild talent feat, which kind of is a feat tree. If we scroll down, wild talent is increase one of your ability scores of your choice by 1 to a maximum of 20 to represent this enhancement. You also harbor a wellspring of psionic power within yourself and energy that ebbs and flows as you channel it in various ways. This power is represented by your psionic talent die, which has a starting size of a d6. You can use your psionic talent in one of the following ways. Psi boosted ability. When you make an ability check with the ability increased by this feat, so whichever one you chose, you can roll your psionic talent die and add the number rolled to the check. You can choose to do so before or after rolling the d20, but before you know if it succeeds or fails. And then Psi guided strike. Once on each of your turns when you hit with a weapon attack that uses the ability increased by this feat, you can roll your psionic talent die after you make the damage roll and replace one of the damage dice with the number rolled on the psionic. Oh, wait. After you make the damage roll and you roll your psionic talent die, and after you make the damage roll and replace one of the damage dice with the number rolled on the psionic talent die. So it doesn't even increase it. It's just like, I rolled a 6 on my psionic talent, but a 1 on my d12. I can replace that 1 with a 6. And you do still have the kind of the same thing with changing the die type, the 1 and 6. It does increase, which is interesting for a feat at 5, 11, and 17. And you get psi replenishment. So you basically get all of that stuff there if you have that feat. And then the other abilities here are metabolic control. If you have one of the prerequisites, increase your strength, dex, or con by 1. If your psionic talent die is available, you can take an action to channel your psionic power to nourish yourself for the next 24 hours as if you consumed sufficient food and water for a day. When you take this action, your psionic talent die increases by 1 die size, decreases by 1 die size. If your psionic talent die is available, you can meditate for 1 minute, at the end of which you gain the benefits of finishing a short rest, and your psionic talent die decreases by 1 die. You can't meditate this way again until a long rest. So that's kind of a cool feature. Sustaining yourself with the power of your mind or gaining a short rest in a minute, again, could be very useful depending on the class you are. Telekinetic originally gave you intelligence score of 1, mage hand, but it didn't require components and was invisible. And as a bonus action, you could try to shove a creature with 5 feet, within 5 feet with your mage hand. They'd make a strength save based off your intelligence modifier, be pushed. Now it gives you intelligence, wisdom, or charisma plus 1. You do learn mage hand. It is without verbal or somatic components. It is invisible, and its range increases by 30 feet when you cast it. That's pretty cool. And then as a bonus action, you can try to telekinetically shove a creature within 30 feet. When you do so, roll your psionic talent die, and the target must succeed on a strength saving throw equal to 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus the ability score for this feat, or be moved toward or away from you a number of feet equal to 5 times the number you rolled on the die. A creature can willingly fail the save. That's pretty cool. And then telepathic was increase your intelligence by 1. You gain proficiency in 1 skill of deception, insight, intimidation, or persuasion, and you can communicate telepathically with a creature you can see within 30 feet if it understands 1 language. Now it's intelligence, wisdom, or charisma by 1. You can speak telepathically to any creature you can see within 30 feet. Your telepathic utterances are in a language you know, and the creature understands you only if it knows that language. The communication doesn't give the creature the ability to respond to you telepathically. And then if your psionic talent die is available, you can cast Detect Thought spell requiring no components. When you start casting the spell, your psionic talent die decreases by 1 die size. Spellcasting ability modifier is the one tied to that you chose at the beginning. And then Tower of Iron Will is the last one. Your mind's defenses are formidable. After you or another creature you see within 30 feet of you fails a saving throw, you can use your reaction to roll your psionic talent die and add the number rolled to the saving throw, potentially causing it to succeed. So that is it. This is really one of the first times we've seen the idea of a feat tree. This was really big in previous editions where like you couldn't get this feat unless you took a previous feat to unlock the ability to do so. We haven't really seen anything like that in 5th edition. The closest thing we've seen is like you need to have proficiency in something to like, you need to have proficiency in medium armor to take medium armor master. The only way that you could sort of feat tree that was to take light armor proficiency first and then medium armor proficiency after to kind of build it up that way. Or like, you know, if it's gated behind you being a certain race or having a certain ability score. This is the first time we've seen that. I'm actually very okay with this concept because I think it adds a ton of variability to existing classes if you come up with the idea of feats that stack. Now, when I had spoken, let me jump back to me here. When I had spoken to Jeremy Crawford at D&D Live last year, that he had given me the impression that they were pretty much against the concept of new feats, as most people seem to not be using them. And again, I think they might have been using information from D&D Beyond because that's one of the easily trackable sources they have. But this shows that perhaps that is incorrect, and they are looking at doing feats once again. So that's exciting. I think I said the Soul Knife I think is pretty good. I think the Psionic Warrior or whatever it is, Psionic Knight, the hell is it called? Psi Knight. I think that fixes. I didn't think it was particularly broken before, whether too powerful or too weak. I think it fixes a lot, and I think it makes it a little cleaner. So I like that. I like some of the stuff that the Psionic Soul Sorcerer gets, but I don't like that whole roll a die, then pick a spell, and you know it for a certain number of hours. because like psionic talent die is your whole thing, and if you roll well to do, you know, to have that known for a while, several hours, then it punishes you if you get the maximum number, because then you have to reset your die size smaller. So other than the fact of just not outright giving the sorcerer origin spells like they've been doing in some of the other Unearthed Arcana, and the whole concept of if you roll well, it punishes you, and if you roll poorly, it potentially rewards you, I don't particularly like that. Other things of interest, they completely canned the Psionic Wizard, so that's never coming back, as all of the other spells in that that particular document, right? Ego Whip, Id Insinuation, Mental Barrier, Psionic Blast, Psychic Crush, and Thought Shield. And official confirmation that the Mystic is dead, folks. The Mystic is never coming back. It is gone forever. Keep that in mind. So other than that, this is pretty interesting. What I will say to you is I think this 100% cements the fact of what I had suggested in several earlier videos. Sometime, likely in the fall, we are going to be getting a, people are calling it Player's Handbook 2, Xanathar's 2, whatever it's going to be called, a new player resource. This is exactly what we saw when Xanathar's was coming out. We had subclasses provided to us in Unearthed Arcana. Then as we started getting closer to the release, we started getting revised versions of those subclasses to try and alter and get them as close to what they think they want to have in the final product. So I will say, when the survey comes out for this, go out and fill it out and be honest with what you like and what you don't like. They do take that into consideration before they publish something officially. So I hope that this Unearthed Arcana was everything you'd hoped for. It's nice to see the reintroduction of feats. It's nice to finally have an answer on the Mystic, though I feel like this was unceremonious. But it is what it is. So thank you all so much for watching. A huge shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon for once again making the top 10 video that may or may not be out by the time you see this possible. They're really awesome, and it's a fun time. There's links in the description for that. Also, link in the description to this Unearthed Arcana if you'd like to go check it out for yourself. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd appreciate it, and I will see you all next time.